My question is, I have noticed that for startup companies that are coming up recently, maybe in Africa and in Europe,
Yes.
there's always a board and a board of advisors. What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Gloria. Absolutely, that model does work for startups. For most startups, you find that the directors, the board actually has more executive directors, people who actually work in the organization. So they sit on the board. Because the structure that for a more advanced company of having independence, that you have got to look for them, set up all these committees and so on, it does not work very effectively in a startup. So in a startup, you tend to get more, the owners are involved on the board, and as opposed to having independence. So to get an outside opinion, sort of independent opinion, you get an advisory board that is not terribly structured, that does not necessarily have to meet every quarterly, that can be contacted from time to time. The only thing the lawyers would have to say is what are the fiduciary duties of this advisory board. Because if I remember my little company law, director is not whether you are a director or not a director. If your directives and instructions are done by the company, then you probably become a director. But it is a very good model where you have those who bring in outside opinions, outside expertise, but they are not really within the structure of the board structure. So a good model for startups, and I would recommend it. Some organizations have a board, an advisory board, also an advisory council. That is going a bit to the extreme, but it is a good idea to have an advisory board. As much as it is a good idea for even established boards to have advisors in areas where they do not have the skills on the board. So if you have a board and you are lacking a skill, maybe audit, maybe risk, maybe investment, then you get an advisor. Not a board member, but advises the board and the committees. So it is a good structure. Feel comfortable with it. As the company grows, then it can really have the more formal, structured board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Japheth.